You see, most people don't realize that you were never designed to consume, you were designed to create. The same God who thought creation to existence made you in his image. So that emptiness you feel, that restlessness you feel, that's not anxiety. That is your soul fighting, rebelling against a life of consumption. But once you understand this, everything changes. I spent years consuming books, content, courses, podcasts, etc. And I never felt fulfilled. I always felt stuck. And it wasn't until I started creating that my life changed. My happiness, everything increased because I made the shift to become the source of my abundance. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why you have felt unfulfilled, stuck, or blocked. And more importantly, how stepping into your role as a conscious creator will unlock the purpose, abundance, and joy you have been searching for. So today, I'm breaking this down into 5 keys. We're going to be talking about why you're literally designed to create, why consuming is stopping and is blocking your abundance, why work is actually worship, how to find your unique creative calling, and how to step up as a creator every single day, because it's not easy, right? Before we dive in, I just want to say I didn't always know these 5 keys. I used to be in a place in my life where I was just consuming, doing a lot of reading, a lot of absorbing information. And I didn't really think much about creation. I just thought, I should absorb, learn. And I realized at a point I started feeling stuck. And I didn't know what was happening. I was reading these books. I was reading all the self-help books, all the books on spirituality, all the books on health, all the books on business, etc. And I just feel like, what's going on? I'm doing all the things I should be doing. Why isn't anything changing? And then I realized more than just applying the knowledge, it's about creating with the knowledge that we're learning, the information that we are receiving. So when I made the decision to start making content, for example, to start creating with content, I really saw everything shift in myself. That when I made the conscious decision to become a channel of creativity, to become a channel of this expression, I started to change completely myself. I started to feel more joyful. I started to feel just much more light, that these information, these ideas aren't living inside of me, but they're flowing through me now. And I'm actually learning much more. And I think for me, it was a shift between knowledge and wisdom. And knowledge becomes wisdom when it's applied through creative action and experience. And that's the space we want to be. It's not that we have all this information in our head because we get information paralysis, analysis paralysis. It's more about applying this information in creative pursuits for things of service to other people. And we learn from experience and we develop wisdom. And wisdom is a place where the knowledge isn't living inside of you, but it exists within you, so that whenever you need it, it's there. And that's the true space. And that really leads to the first point, which is that we are literally designed to create. So as we know in the Bible from John, that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And this spirit, God clearly thought the universe into existence. God is the prime mover. God is the first creator, the causeless cause. And guess what? God made you, made me, made all of us in his image, meaning that we too are creators, and our mission and our purpose is to create. And I remember for myself, the first ebook I had wrote was about tarot cards. And it gave me so much enthusiasm as I was creating this book, because I was like, all these ideas, all these things I'm learning, all the different readings I've done for people, I'm able to try to condense this into, a package, information package for people to experience and learn from. And as I was creating, more ideas were flowing. And that was, to me, that was such a big aha moment, was when we start actively channeling and actively starting to create, we enter this holy, this sacred relationship with spirit, with God, where we become co-creators. Because the first thing that we see in Genesis after God created man is that he put man to create. He gave man the duty to give names and to be a co-creator in this experience. And so really it's just a very fundamental level as an identity thing and the soul, right? It's like reviewing ourselves. Are we creating in our lives, or are we just consuming? Because when we're just consuming, our soul is becoming, our souls, the light of our souls becomes veiled by darkness, by consumption. And when we take that step to step into our divine identity as creators, then we are in tune with spirit, we are in tune with the source. Because the biggest thing that we want is to be channels. That's really, we all want to be channels. There's nothing better than being a channel, because that which flows through the channel blesses the channel. So when we become a channel for abundance, we also too receive abundance. And so that's the real divine secret in becoming a co-creator, which leads us to the second key, which is consumption without creation leads to spiritual debt. And what I mean by this is that when, like, let's think, for example, we'll use an analogy of a river and a swamp. A river is constantly flowing, so it's staying clean because energy is moving through it. And that's what we want. We want to be a river. We want to be constantly flowing. We want to have the energy constantly moving through us. And then there's a swamp on the other hand. The swamp just collects and collects and collects, but there's no channel, there's no flow, and so the energy becomes stagnant. And that's what happens when we just consume and consume and consume content. We take in more ideas, more information, more opinions, but we're not creating anything. And so these ideas start to kind of pollute our own mind, because then we're not sure what are our thoughts versus the thoughts that people have, that we have received from other people. And we know we start anxiety, overthinking, all these different things start to come about, because just like a swamp, nothing is moving in a swamp, so it starts to putrefy, it starts to become rotten, and it starts to give off bad environment, bad energy. And so in the same way, when these ideas are left within us, information is left within us, we're not creating with it, it starts to weigh us down by creating negative thought vibrations like restlessness, anxiety, overthinking, analysis paralysis, procrastination, etc. And this is all because the energy flow is blocked. And so we need to shift from the swamp consciousness to a river consciousness. We need to shift from being a container to a channel, so that when we step into that consciousness of a channel, we're tapping into that divine design as a co-creator. We're tapping into how God wants us to create, and we're allowing that creation to flow through us. And that way, as I was sharing earlier, we're tapping into wisdom, we're tapping into intuition, and we're tapping into this natural flow that is so much missing in our lives when our lives are based around consumption. And so the spiritual debt here is about giving more than you receive. That is the true spirit. And the more we give, the happier we become, which is another secret to becoming a creator. Creators are the truly happy ones. Those who are consuming are not really happy. And so for yourself is okay to just take stock of how much time are you consuming versus how much time are you creating. That will determine, are you a river or are you a swamp? And key number 3 is work is worship. The world has sold you a lie to tell you that if you're a spiritual person, that you should not be working, you should not be making money, because those things are evil. Those things are for the corrupt people. And so we're kept poor. The spiritual people who really care about other people, the spiritual people who really want to see a better planet, the spiritual people who are wanting to build a new earth are the same ones who are impoverished, are the same ones who don't have the resources to manifest the vision, to manifest and create what God has put inside of you. So God, just like in Genesis, when God created man, God put man to work in the garden. That was very clear. Man was meant to take care of earth. Man was given dominion over the planet, not to abuse it, but to use it and to take care of it. And so in the same way, literally in the same way, each one of us needs to recognize that we are here to serve. We're here to work for God. We're here to work and create for God and to serve others through our creations. The truly spiritual one is the one who can work unselfishly and quickly for the welfare and the good of all. So it's not about whether you have money, whether you live in a palace, whether you're a millionaire or not. It's about being unselfish and working for the good of all. That's true renunciation, and that is the renunciation that our world needs today. For those living in the world, spiritual people living in the world, if you're not making money, you're also are I don't want to say you're not contributing, because the meditations and inner work is the most important thing, but to also understand, and like the God in Genesis has said, man, you're here to work as well. So just on that side, if you're doing the inner work, great, keep on doing the inner work. That's what the world would need. But don't stop there. The outer work is important as well in creating for your fellow beings, serving your fellow beings. Is the next step. It's the next answer to the calling. Key number 4 is your creativity is your calling. And this is a really big thing to me, because when I was young, I think many people also may feel this way, right? We think like, oh, to be creative means I need to be an artist, I need to be a poet, I need to be this or that. And, those things never really resonate with me. I don't know if you have the same experience where it's like, I always thought, I think I'm a creative person, but I'm not necessarily an artist. In that sense, right? That was kind of my own experience. And for a while, I always felt blocked, and it kind of subtly gave myself a justification not to create, because, oh, I'm not creative, I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist, so that means I'm not creative. That was my initial thought process. But then I started to really shift my view of, okay, what does creation really mean? And when I really started to dive deep into that, then my view really started to open up, because for me, I realized that, well, for me, my art form is how I take care of the body. For me, like, I am a soul, and my body is my art. How I take care of the body, how I utilize the body, how I move the body. I see it as all as art, as creativity. And when I made that shift, then I started to see, oh wait, I do have something valuable to give to others. I do have something I want to create. And when I started to tap into that, once I started to offer that to people, as I make content around that, again, we're opening up the channel of abundance. We're opening up this channel to receive the happiness, to receive the gifts. And so I implore you, I want to share with you all in that same spirit, don't focus on creativity in the sense of like art and all the things that we normally think of creativity about, but creativity is, solving problems for people, taking care of your children, taking care of your family, because when we're serving other people, we have to get creative, because each one of us are so unique. Each one of us has created such unique problems for ourselves with our own mental makeups that there's no one size fits all for everyone. So anytime you're helping someone, to truly help them, you need to come from a very sincere person-to-person space with them. And that allows for creativity, because you're not just like, okay, here's a generic answer, do this. But like, no, I see your circumstances. Here's a creative idea that I came up with or I received that I think will help solve your problem. And that's when we become channels and instruments of God, which leads into key number 5. Creativity is really more of a way of life than a mood, or just something you do when you're happy, when you feel good, right? And so this is the big thing, because we all feel inspiration to create something. Then when we start to do it, then it becomes a bit harder than we expect, and we kind of fall off, right? That has happened to you, because I'm sure it's happened to me before. And the solution that I found in this case is to realize that creativity is not a mood thing. It's not, oh, I'm super happy, so let's create. But creativity needs to be seen as a lifestyle, as a disciplined practice. And we make that shift, then ideas start to come to you more. And so, for example, it's like the idea like, oh, I don't have any ideas, so I can't create something. But it's other way around. Let me generate ideas. Let me generate energy. And when you move energy, ideas start to flow as well. So the real spirit of creation is, how are you moving energy? How are you connecting to energy, and how are you moving that energy? That's the really important part of the message. And the more you do it, the more you will enjoy it, and the easier it becomes. And that's the big secret that's, not really talked about very much, is, like, starting a YouTube channel is hard. Starting something is easy. Continuing with it is definitely much harder. And I find with creativity, like with content creation, with creation, as long as we give energy to it every single day, it's going to get easier and easier to create, because we're establishing a state of consciousness as a conscious creator. And that's the place we want to be to. We want to establish a framework, a software system in our consciousness, that we are conscious co-creators with God in this earth, in this creation, here to bring about a better civilization, here to bring about something better for other people. So I'm sure God, if you're here right now on this planet, God has sent you with a purpose, with a mission to serve other people. And that service comes through creative action. It comes through discipline. It comes through day-to-day actions and building upon each other. And again, understanding that to be spiritual means to work, to understand that you're made in the image of God, that creation is your divine birthright, it's your divine duty. The big problem that we as conscious creators experience is that we want to serve everyone and to be of support to everyone. And for that exact same reason, we also close the doors to the people that we are meant to serve. And so this part is really important because creativity is only meaningful when it is aligned with God's will and you're creating what God wants you to create. So this is, again, channel consciousness. Being an instrument is the highest thing possible. You're not creating for yourself, creating what you want, but you're creating what God wants you to create. And that's the true message of this video. And that's the place that will allow you to really, truly dive deep into your creativity, because it's not about you, it's about what God wants you to do. And when you tap into that message, when you tap into that service, your whole life will change, your whole life will light up. I can speak from experience. That's what happened to my life when I put God first, when I started to create and commit myself to his service. All doors open up. My life has never been the same. Now, if you're someone who feels called to coach, to serve, to help other people, but you're stuck trying to figure out exactly what your offer is and who it's meant for, then let's talk. Because I was at the same place. I know how hard it is to get clarity as a spiritual person when you want to serve everyone and you don't want to limit your service to a small group of people. You want to serve everyone. I know how hard it is in that consciousness to get clarity on your offer, because it feels like you're having to limit yourself and limit your capacity to serve. I totally get that feeling. And if this is where you're at right now, then I want to let you know that getting clarity in your offer is the best way to serve people. Niching down is the best way to serve more people. And if you're looking for support in this process, in the description, you'll be able to find a link to book a free one-on-one call. I'd love to talk to you and see what your mission is and what you're building and help you get clarity so you can serve the people God has called you to serve. Blessings.